Hello everyone. Wishing you all a very good afternoon. How are you guys doing? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Am I audible? Am I visible to all of you? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay, Sai, Deshpal. Again, remember that if you have to send a message, send it on my ID AskTik. That is the ID that you should send your message, not the ID from which I am taking the class, because it becomes difficult for me to see it. Or you can send a message at everyone. So you can address the message to everyone and then you can send a message. Okay. Now, in today's class, we will be discussing Newton's laws of motion. Any idea about Newton's laws of motion? You must be knowing Newton's laws of motion, three laws of motion. What is Newton's first law of motion? What is Newton's first law of motion? Any idea? If a body is at rest, it remains at rest. If a body is moving, it will continue its uniform motion unless an unbalanced force acts on it. Unless a force acts on a body, it will continue its state of rest or state of motion. Newton's second law of motion. The rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the applied force. The rate of change of momentum, dP by dt. Do you understand dP by dt? Rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the force acting on the body, and the momentum of the body changes in the direction of force. Can I have some reason that we remember these two equations? I know it must be a long time, 2 years ago you might have heard these equations, but I think you can recollect them. Do you recollect them? Can I have some raised hands? No one remembers these equations? I guess I'm audible and visible to all. Sai, Teja, Keshav, Kasif, Rijesh, Ashrit, Bhagyavati, Jyoti. Am I audible and visible to all? No one is responding. Am I audible and visible? Please, anyone say something. Okay, good. Thanks. So basically, what we mean to say is rate of change of momentum is my force. Force is rate of change of momentum dP by dt. Let me zoom it. I can zoom it more. dP by dt is the rate of change of momentum, which is equal to force, or I can simply write force is equal to mass into acceleration, where P is m into v. This is also known as linear momentum. There is something known as angular momentum, which we discussed in the previous class. Yes or no? What are the important points that you must remember about Newton's second law? Newton's second law consists of Newton's first law. If force is zero, acceleration is zero. The equation that we wrote, dP by dt is equal to F vector. This was a vector equation. You can also write this equation along x-axis. If you write it along x-axis, it will look like this. Fx is equal to dpx by dt is equal to m into ax. Fy is equal to dpy by dt is equal to m into ay, where Fy corresponds to force along y-axis, force of component along y-axis. Py is momentum along y-axis. Ay is acceleration along y-axis. Fz is dpz by dt is equal to m into az, where az or az is the acceleration along z-axis. Pz is the momentum along z-axis, and fz is the force along z-axis. So you can write these equations along z-axis, and remember, if any of these forces, sometimes it might happen that the net force on the particle is not zero. Net force on the particle is not zero, but its component along any direction is zero. The momentum remains constant in that direction. Law of conservation of momentum. You can also understand law of conservation of momentum from here, from Newton's second law. How can you write the law of conservation of momentum from here? If the net force acting on a body is zero, if the net force acting on the body is zero, dp vector by dt is zero. That means the momentum of the body does not change. dp, change in momentum, is zero. Momentum of the body does not change. That means momentum of the body remains constant, and this becomes your law of conservation of linear momentum. Do we remember this law of conservation of linear momentum? Can I have some raise hand that we understand this, sir? Please don't send me message on this ID, beta. Please send me the message on the other ID. Do we understand this law of conservation of momentum? So we can understand this law of conservation of momentum from Newton's second law. And as what I was saying, sometimes the net force may not be zero. F net force is not equal to zero. But along one direction, the net force may be zero. Along one direction, net force may be zero. Simplest example is here. You have this body and you apply a force here. There is the weight of the body acting like this, the normal reaction of the body acting like this. Is the net force acting on this body zero? No. There is a net force acting on this body F. But along one direction, the net force is zero. What is that direction? That direction is definitely along y-axis. Along y-axis, there is no net force acting on this particle, and its momentum will remain conserved along y-axis. So we have understood from Newton's second law, the law of conservation of momentum. Am I clear? Shall I move? Shall I move ahead? Okay. Now remember the form of the Newton's law that we have seen. The second law of motion, which is given above, is strictly applicable to a single point mass. Applicable to single point mass, or for bodies which are taken as point masses. If it is a system of bodies, this acceleration stands. This acceleration will stand for the acceleration of the center of mass. And the force will be the net external force acting on the body, because all the internal force acting on the body cancel out each other. Do we remember that? Law of conservation of angular momentum. No. Law of conservation of linear momentum for a system of particles. For a system of particles, if you write this equation, how does the equation look like? F external is equal to total mass m into A of center of mass. Do we remember this equation? Law of conservation of angular momentum. No. Law of conservation of linear momentum applied for a system of bodies. If the net external force acting on the body is zero, the center of mass does not go anywhere. The velocity of center of mass remains same. The position, the displacement. Do we remember that? If the center of mass is at rest initially, it will never move at all. There will be no displacement of the center of mass if initially it was at rest. So we are now trying to combine, since it is a crash course, we are trying to combine Newton's second law with law of conservation of momentum, and here and there. I hope you are able to understand this. Yes or no? Do we understand this? Yes or no? Okay. Now, you can apply this Newton's law. The first case is when objects are in equilibrium. What do you mean by objects are in equilibrium? What do you mean when you say objects are in equilibrium? What do you mean by equilibrium? Anyone tell me what do you mean by equilibrium? No one knows what is equilibrium? Equilibrium means net force acting on the body is zero. Net force acting on the body is zero, or the net acceleration of the body is zero. A body moving with uniform velocity can be in equilibrium because the net force is zero, so the velocity does not change. A particle at rest, which is not moving, is in equilibrium because there is no force acting on the body and there is no acceleration. Now, if F net is zero, The net force is 0. If the net force is 0, that implies force along x will be 0. There will be no force along the x-axis. There will be no force along y-axis. And there will be no force along z-axis. The net force is 0. There cannot be the other case. There cannot be a net force along x-axis. And then the net force vectorly becomes 0. If the net force is 0, force along any component, along any axis will be 0. But if the net force is not 0, still there can be a case where force along one axis comes out to be 0. Do we understand this? Can I have raised hands? Let's say we understand this. These are simple concepts that we might have studied. This is a recap. This is a crash course. We are trying to understand the basic concepts. How do we solve questions of problems in equilibrium stepwise? What is step number 1? To draw diagram, sketch, or a free body diagram. You isolate each and every body from each other. If there are 2 blocks, you isolate the blocks. 5 blocks, you isolate the blocks. You isolate the blocks, you draw free body diagram. You draw FBD, free body diagram, clearly showing all the forces acting on the body. You must show all the forces acting on the body. Then what do? Then you choose a convenient coordinate system and resolve all the forces along x and y axis. Assume one axis as x axis, assume other y axis as y axis, which are perpendicular. The body is hanging, y axis becomes vertical, horizontal becomes x axis. If the body is moving on a horizontal surface becomes x axis, vertical becomes y axis. If the particle is kept on a wedge, what you should take as x axis and what you should take as y axis. If the particle is on a wedge, what is the best way to take x axis? Anyone? The best way to take x axis will be along the wedge and the y axis will be perpendicular to the wedge. Do we remember this? Can I have reason that we remember this, sir? So we have to choose x and y axis conveniently. Depending on the case, you can have a slanted x-axis and a slanted y-axis. Depending on the case, you have a horizontal x-axis and a vertical y-axis. Then what do? You apply all the forces, find out their components along x and y. Then the net force along x must be 0. Net force along y can be 0. Must be 0 because the particle is in equilibrium. Forces along positive x must be equal to forces along negative x. Forces along positive y must be equal to forces along negative y. You make this equation, use this equation. You will get a couple of equations. Solving that equation, you should be able to get the value of all the unknowns. Am I clear? This is a very simple example of this. I will not do this example. We will do this one. The system shown in the figure is in equilibrium. Find the magnitude of tension in each string T1, T2, T3, T4. Can you get me the values of T1, T2, T3, T4? Simple question. I will make it large. Equilibrium में है. The system is in equilibrium. You have to find the tension T1, T2, T3, T4. Can you do this? Can you do this? How will you do this? How will you do this? Anyone? Well, we draw the free body diagram. This is the free body diagram of 10 kg block. The weight 10g is acting downwards. Then there is tension in this string. We call it T0. T0 is acting upwards. We apply the equation of equilibrium. Upward forces must be equal to downward forces. So the value of T0 becomes 10 times G or 100 Newton. Yes or no? Then what do? We draw the free body diagram of A. Where is the free body diagram of A? This is the free body diagram of A. This is T0, the tension that we have already found. This is T1, the tension in the left string. This is T2, the tension in the right string. We have chosen our x-axis like this and our y-axis like this. T0 and T1 are along y and x-axis respectively. T2 is not along x and y axis respectively. So what do? Take the components. T2, this angle is theta, so this component becomes T2 sine theta. This component becomes T2 sine theta, which is 30, and this component becomes T2 cos 30. Do we understand this, everyone? Do you understand this, everyone? Then forces along y-axis should be equal. So this force must be equal to this one. This force must be equal to this one. And I guess this is the equation that is given over here. Total force on the y-axis must be 0. So T2 cos 30 will be equal to T0 along the y-axis. Though I think they've taken it wrongly. They've taken it wrongly. Don't worry. That is what I'm saying. It's misprint. T2 sine 30 will be equal to T0. T2 sine 30 will be equal to T0. Oh, sorry. I wrote it wrongly. Sorry. This is 30. So this will be cos 30. And this one will be sine 30. Sorry. I wrote it wrongly. So T2 cos 30 will be equal to T0. And T2 sine 30 will be equal to T1. I wrote it wrongly. Sorry. General mistake. Force along y is equal to 0. Force along x is equal to 0. From here, you can get the value of T2 in the first shot. From T2, you can get the value of T1 in the second shot. Do we all agree on this? That is how you get the value of T1 and T2. Then you draw the free body diagram of body B, point B. This is the free body diagram. T2 is going here, T3 is going here, T4 is going here. You take the component here, it will be T4 cos 60, T4 cos 60. This will be T4 sin 60. This will be T2 cos 30. And this will be T2 sin 30. Yes or no? Do we all understand this? Do you understand this? Then you can again apply equation along y-axis. Force along y-axis would be 0. So this and this T2 cos 30 equates T4 cos 60. T3 plus T2 sin 30 equates T4 sin 60. From there, you can get the value of T4 and T3. I don't think you can get a tougher question than this. This is more than enough that you need to understand. That is how you can solve each and every question depending on how much variables are there. You will get same number of equations and you can solve those equations and get your answers. Can you do that? Are you confident? Shall we move again? Shall we move ahead? So there are different questions you can try. I will send you this PDF. I'll find out where to send you this PDF. I'll send you this PDF. You can try these questions from here. This one or example number 7. You can try these questions. Simple question. Just draw the free body diagram. T1, T2, M2G cos theta, M2G sin theta. This is T2. This is 2 into G. You equate all this and you get your answers. For this mass, for body A, you will take this as x-axis and this as y-axis. For body 2 also, this is x-axis and this is y-axis. But for this body, this axis would be your x-axis and this axis would be your y-axis. Do we remember this? Do we understand this? Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay. Now, since we have done questions on equilibrium, now in most of the cases, the bodies would be accelerating. The bodies would be accelerating. So we would have bodies accelerating. Now, how do we solve question of that nature? Now, when the body is accelerating, in this particular case that we are solving questions, it would be accelerating in one direction. One direction means either it will be accelerating along y or it will be accelerating along x in simple question. In the complicated ones, where something is kept on a wedge and it is moving up and down, it would be accelerating in the x as well as in the y. But in simple cases, it will be accelerating only in one direction. So how do we find it? Whether it's accelerating in one direction or two direction, doesn't matter. The process remains same. You make a sketch of all the problem. Isolate the problem, isolate each and everything and make a free body diagram. Choose a convenient coordinate system. X, Y, X, Y. Choose your coordinate system and then you can write fx is equal to m into ax and fy is equal to m into ay. There might be a case where one of these forces can be zero. If force along y is zero, this will become zero. So there will be no acceleration along y axis. If there is no force along x axis, this will become zero. That will become question of equilibrium. But at least one would be accelerating. So both will not be zero. At least one would be non-zero. Get the values of all the unknowns with the equations and you should be good enough to solve these problems. Do we understand this? Let us try a problem on this category. Let us try a problem on this category. And which one should I try? Let me try this one. Let me try this one. Okay. Example number 10. Let us try example number 10. A 5 kg block has a rope of mass 2 kg attached to its underside and a 3 kg block is suspended. So this is 3 kg, this is 5 kg on the other end, and the rope is 2 kg. The whole system is accelerated upwards at 2 meter per second square by constant force F naught. How much is the value of F naught? Can you get the value of F naught? There are different ways of doing this question. Since you are in a crash course, you will do it in the simplest possible way, the easiest possible way, and the easiest possible way would be to consider this entire thing as one system. To consider this entire thing as one system. If you consider this entire thing as one system, this system is having only one acceleration in one direction. So you can write F is equal to total mass into total acceleration in one direction. You can get the value of the force F naught. Yes or no? Do we understand this? Yes or no? Can you understand this? Can I have some raise hand that we understand this?
Yes, sir.
Total force is F naught. Total mass that it has to lift is 100 Newton. But remember, there is also gravity which is acting downwards. Please don't forget gravity. Gravity will be equal to how much is the mass? 10 kg, 10g. So downward force is 10g. Upward force is F naught. And this entire system is moving upward with an acceleration a. So equation becomes F naught is F naught minus 10g is equal to 10a. From here, you can get the value of F naught. Do you all understand this, beta? Can I have some reason that we understand this? Great, great. We are having good participant. What is the net force on the rope? For net force on the rope, just apply equation for the rope. Just apply equation for the rope. What is the equation for the rope? Just apply that equation and you should be getting the formula net force acting on the rope. Net force they're asking net force. Remember, there are small tricks that you must remember while solving a question. They are not saying what is the tension in the rope. They are saying what is the net force in the rope. Net force is mass into acceleration. It includes the tension in the rope. It includes the weight of the rope also. Do we understand this? Do we understand this? How many of you have understood this? That we are talking about the net force on the rope. Net force is mass into acceleration, not the tension in the rope, not the tension in the rope. Third question asks you, what is the tension at the middle point of the rope? What is the tension at the middle point of the rope? What is the tension at the middle point of the rope? To calculate the tension at the middle point of the rope, this is a very good way of doing it. We apply the tension at the middle point. The upward force is T. It is pulling the entire system. Downward force, you have to find the mass of this, which is 1 kg. And the 3 kg is the mass of the block. So the total mass becomes 4 kg. 4 kg or 4g is the downward force. 4 times g is the downward force. Upward force is T. T minus 4g must be equal to 4a. From here, you can get the value of the tension in the string at the middle point. If you calculate it at some other point, it would be different. Why it is different? Because there is mass of the rope. If the mass of the rope was not there, tension at all the points of the rope will remain same. Do you understand this? Can I have some reason that we understand this, sir? Only 2 people have understood this. No, not good. So the Shilata, Bhojraju, Rajlakshmi, Sivlakshmi Prasad, Bhagyavati, Varshita, Sanjana, Sai Teja. Do you all understand this? Great, great. See, I can't spend much time here because we'll have to move and to finish this entire thing. There's one more question that you can do here on the same line because I just feel that these type of questions can come in the exam these days. Example number 12, based on a similar concept. Just remember this shortcut formula and maybe you can apply this somewhere. The horizontal force F is applied on a uniform rod of length L kept on a frictionless surface. Find the tension in the rod at distance X from the end where it is applied. So force is applied here from the end X. What is the value of this force? No, what is the value of the tension? Tension in the rod at a distance X. How will you do it? You can just assume that the X part is getting two forces. One is trying to push it there. The other one is trying to, the other part of the rope is trying to push it there. F minus this should be equal to ma, and you should get your answer. This mass will be the mass of this X part of the rope. So F minus T will be m by L into X into A. From here, you should get the value of tension in the rod as a function of X. You put X as 0, you will get the force at the first point. You put X as L, you will get the force at the last point. Do you understand this? You must have seen this question somewhere. Can I have some reason that we understand this? Great participation. Similar question. Now, if you know the answer to the first one, can you tell me the answer to this one? If you know the answer to the first one, can you tell me the answer to this one? First one was this. First one was this. What will be the answer to this one? Hello, I've opened it. Do you understand how the answer is changing? You understand how the answer is changing? This is what I call linear variation of force along the length of the rod. At one end it is F2, the other end it is F1. So the linear variation is F2 minus F1 divided by L into X. Do we understand this? If this F was not there, it will become F2 into X by L. Do you understand this? Do you understand this? If there is no F1, it is F2 into X by L. And if there is no F1, this becomes F2 minus F2 into X by L. So we get the original formula that we had derived. Do we understand this? Do you understand this? So this is how you can remember things. If you remember this general formula, just put F1 as 0 and you get the other one. Clear? Do you understand this? And these are the famous problems of that pulley and mass and all this. We'll just see one of these. If you have to solve this weight goes down here. This mg sin theta component goes here. This mg cos theta component I think goes here. This tension is T. This tension is T. You have to find out which block is moving where. Where is the acceleration of the block? If the acceleration is wrong, your answer would be negative of this. If there is no friction, you can take that answer. If there is friction, you have to repeat the entire question again. Do you know this? You can find out the pulling force. What is the pulling force on this side? What is the pulling force on the other side? Whatever pulling force is more, it will move in the direction of the pulling force. Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you understand this? Do you understand the concept of pulling forces? Yes. So depending on the pulling force, you can find out whether this where this block is moving. You have to just find the tension here. They have found out the tension. They have not found out the acceleration. I think you can find out the acceleration. They have assumed that this block is moving here. So the pulling force is m1g sine theta minus t will be equal to m1a. The second equation will be t minus m2 sine theta equal to m2a. You get the value of t. But the question was net force on the pulley. Net force on the pulley. How will you get net force on the pulley? So he have drawn, remember this, they have drawn the diagram of the pulley. One force T is going here, one force T is going here. The resultant of these two forces is the net force acting on the pulley. And how they have got it root T? Because by the geometry of the diagram, this angle is 90 degrees. So both are inclined at an angle of 90 degrees. So basically one force is like, one tension is like this, other tension is like this, there other tension is like this, therefore the net is root 2T. Do we understand this? Do we understand this? Can I have some raise hand that we understand this? Okay. That takes us to this part which I think most of you are confused with: constrained motion. Do you know what is meant by constrained motion? Constrained motion. Constraint means you are putting some conditions on motion. A body is not free to move. We call that motion as constrained motion. Simplest example of a constrained motion. I have a plane. I keep a body on the plane. I apply a force on the body F. But the gentleman body moves like this. It moves here. Now I ask you, is this motion an example of a constrained motion? Is this motion example of a constrained motion? Yes or no? Yes. What type of constraint this motion has? We call it plane constraint or wedge constraint. This is a plane. Since this body is kept on a plane and it is moving along the plane, this type of constraint is known as wedge constraint or plane constraint. Similarly, you can have different types of constraint. The type of constraint that comes more often or not is string constraint. What is the string constraint? When two bodies are attached by a string, they can't move freely. They can't move freely. They can't move freely. You are bound to move in some sort of a relation. For example, the simplest possible example is you have this block and you have this block. They are attached to each other by string, single string. If I move this block with an acceleration A, this block has to also move forward with the acceleration A, assuming that the string does not extend, contract, break, and all that. This type of constraint, this is the simplest type of constraint, which is known as the string constraint. Do we know about the constraint, string constraint? Now, in case of a simple string, single string, the problem does not happen. But what happens when you have more than one string attached to blocks? For example, here. Here in this case. Here, how many strings I have? Do we see this diagram? Here, how many strings I have? How many strings I have here? I have two strings, T2 and T1. And these blocks are not free to move. They are moving because of constraints. Now, how do you find the relation between these constraints? Now, remember what I'm saying. There is no friction here, so don't have to worry about the direction of motion. Don't have to worry about the direction of motion. Let the direction of motion go elsewhere. I can assume any direction of motion. How are you going to do this? Remember this. Let us assume that this block A1, this block M1 moves downwards with acceleration A1. This block M2 moves downward with an acceleration A2. Obviously, all three cannot move downward, but I'm just assuming that all the three are downwards. All the three are downwards. Yes, you can do the question this way. Don't worry. You can do the question this way. Now, this tension is T. So I write T here. The entire string, the tension will be T. This tension will be T upwards. If this is T, this will be 2T. Do we understand this? T plus T will be 2T. Yes or no? T plus T will be 2T. So tension in this string will be 2T. Tension in this string will be 2T. Yes or no? Now I apply something which is known as virtual work principle. Virtual work principle. which virtual work principle says that the work done by the tension of a string is 0. So basically you find the work done by tension of this string. This will be T multiplied by x1. x1 is here, T1 is upper, so it becomes minus T into x1. Work done by tension on this string will be minus T into x2, because I'm assuming that this is moving downwards and the tension is upwards. Minus, what is the plus, what is the work done on this string? Work done by this string will be 2T multiplied by A3. It is, I'm assuming that this is moving downwards. Acceleration is taken as downwards, so x is also downwards. 2T is upwards, x is downwards, so it will be minus 2T into x3. That will be equal to 0. Minus minus cancel. T cancels. The constant I'm getting is x1 plus x2 plus 2x3 is 0. I differentiate it once. I will get v1 plus v2 plus 2v3 is equal to 0. That is the constant relation in terms of velocity. I differentiate it once more. I will get it a1 plus a2 plus 2a3 is equal to 0. That is the constraint for relation. Did you get that? How did I get it? I did not think which block is going to move where. I just took the simplest possible case. All the blocks are moving down. And then I found the constraint. But now the problem is, since I have taken all the blocks is moving down, I'll have to make the equations of all the block moving down. What will be the equation of this block M1? The equation of this block will be M1G minus T is equal to M1A1. Do we understand this? Can I have some raise hand that we understand this, sir? This is probably the best thing that we have heard in the entire thing, to get the constraint in such a simple way and then to make the equation according to the constraint. This is the equation M1. What is the equation for the block M2? What will be the equation for the block M2? Tell me. It is simply M2G minus T will be equal to M2 into A2. What will be the equation of the block 3? It is also moving down. M3G minus 2T will be equal to M3A3. You get 4 equations, you have 4 unknowns, you can solve this. What is the best way of solving this? Find out the value of A1 from here, A2 from here, A3 from here, and put it in this equation. Put the value of A1 from this equation, put the value of A2 from this equation, put the value of A3 from this equation in the first equation, and you will get the answer for your tension. Am I clear? Do you understand this? How I have done this problem in a very, very simple way? Found out the constraint. I never thought where they are going to move. I never thought where they are going to move. We are doing advanced problem, but don't worry. We can only do direct problems that are supposed to come. Okay. So we are doing theory as well as we are doing problems. Right? Okay. So what have we done here? Where was we? Right. We have found out the constraints. We have found out the constraint. But sir, both tensions are not same, but we took both as Ty. The tensions are same because in one string, tension cannot change unless the string has mass. So this tension is T, this tension is T. The tension in this string is 2T. I hope you know how to get it. T and T downwards, 2T upwards. Pulley does not have mass. Pulley does not have mass, so the upper tension will be equal to 2T. Do we understand this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, good. So there might be something that I might miss. I might assume that you know it. So these are the answers for this one. You can get the answers for this one as well. Now, how do you do this? If I have this angle coming here, sometimes you will get this angle. Don't worry. Even then you get angles, you can easily find out the constraint. How you can find out the constraint? The tension is T here. This will be equal to T cos theta. This one will be equal to T2. This one will be equal to T2. You can find out the value of this T2. When this block goes down, let us say with the velocity V1, this one is moving down with velocity V1. You can find the dot product. You can find the dot product here. And then using that dot product, you can find out the value of the constraint. Am I clear? Am I clear? Even if you have things moving at an angle, this method does not change. The method remains same. Do you understand this? The method remains same here also. This is moving here. Tension T is here. The same tension is T here. The same tension T is here. This block is going to move here. Let me call this as X1. Let me call this as X2. T into X2. This will be minus T into X2. The work done by on this tension. The work done by tension on this one. And this will be T into X1 into cos of 60. Because you have to take the dot product. So this will be equal to T into X into cos of 60 minus T into X2 will be equal to 0. From here, you will get the relation between X2 and X. And from here, you can get the value of the constraint relation. Am I clear? Do we understand this? Can I have some raise hand that we understand this, sir? You can use this tension wala funda to find the constraint relation between any two. I think you must be knowing this weighing machine. What is the reading in this weighing machine? The normal reaction is the reading in the weighing machine. So you just have to get the value of the normal reaction. And I think you can solve this question. Spring force is always equal to K into X. If the spring is extended, the spring force will be acting in the reverse direction. Do we know this? Yes or no? We know this now? Yes or no? Okay. This type of question comes in the exam very often. Two blocks A and B of same mass attached with a light spring are suspended by a string. Find the acceleration of block A and B just after the spring is cut. Just after the string is cut, what is the acceleration of the two blocks? Can you get me this one? Sai Teja, can you get me this one, beta? What is the answer for this one? Vijesh, do you have a doubt? Please ask. How will you do this? Sai Teja. Anyone? No one? No one? Okay. Now, when in the beginning, these two blocks, were in equilibrium. So what was the free body diagram of B? The B free body diagram, this was mg and this was the spring force F or tension, whatever you call it. So this, from here, you can find out the value of this F or the spring force, right? The free body diagram of B was like this. Upward, there was a force, which was the tension in the string, and downwards, that was this force, spring force, and the weight of the block. So this was the tension in the string. Now, when the string is cut, this tension becomes 0. As soon as the string is cut, the tension in the string becomes 0, but the tension in the spring or the force in the spring does not become 0 all of a sudden. But the spring does not change its shape just after cutting. It will take some time for it to cut, for it to change for it to change the force. So spring force acts on the mass B again. So now we have got the value of the spring force. Now what is the value of the spring force? On the block B, the same spring force is acting on the block B. That was mg. The weight of the block B is mg down. So mg up, mg down, the acceleration of block A is 0. Block A does not accelerate. Oh, sorry, block B does not accelerate. Hard to think, hard to imagine. But this is how the question is. Hard to think, hard to imagine. Niche wala block does not accelerate, but upar wala block accelerates. Or not. Upar wala block. Mg weight is downwards. T naught, which is the spring force, it is also downwards. To downward force should be equal to m into A. Acceleration of this block is 2 times T. Remember this question. I hope you will understand this. Have you understood this? Can I have some reason that we've understood this, sir? Everyone? Only 3 people. What about the others? 4. Brijesh has understood this. Okay. Dikshita. What about you, Sai Teja? Have you understood this, beta? Keshav, Bhagyavati, Srikar, Sai Teja, Sanjana, Bhojraju. We have understood this. Great, great, great. See, now there is a brother of this question. Now in the brother of this question, the thing is like this. Now this string would be cut. This string would be cut. So if this string will be cut, this will be free. So acceleration of this will be G downwards. Everyone knows this. Acceleration of the lower block is G upwards. How do you get it? Tell me. The tension in the spring will remain. Tension in this part will go, but the weight of block A will remain. So this T, you have to find the value of this T, which was the tension in the first case. This T minus mg would be equal to ma. And find out the acceleration of block A. Can you do that on your own? Yes or no? What does spring balance measure? It does not measure the weight. Remember, it measures the force exerted by the block, the tension, this T, whatever is this T, it measures this T, force in the spring. Would you remember this? Would you remember this? Okay. Then there is one thing that most of the students don't understand, which is this wedge constraint. I told you this wedge constraint. Now this wedge constraint is again, if a block, see this block is on this wedge. When the wedge moves, the block also moves. With respect to the block, the wedge moves like this. With respect to the wedge, the block moves like this. But with respect to ground, the motion is very complicated. With respect to ground, the motion of this block is very complicated. Very complicated. Anyways, this is how it moves. How can you find the relation between the two? How can you find the relation between the two? That is what wedge constraints are all about. That is what wedge constraints are all about. If there are constraints, you must be able to find out its value and do it. How can you do a simple wedge constraint like this? A simple wedge constraint like this. For example, if this block moves here, where will this block moves here with an acceleration A1 with respect to ground? What will happen to this? Will it move up or will it move down? Will this rod move upwards or downwards? Tell me. If the wedge moves towards right, where will the rod move? No one? No idea? No idea, anyone? No one knows? If this moves right, where does the rod move? Down. Yes, just move down. Down. It moves down with an acceleration A2. It moves down with an acceleration A2. What is the relation between A1 and A2? This A2 is with respect to ground. Remember, it moves with respect to ground. Now, how do we get the relation between A1 and A2? There are very complicated ways of doing this. My way is very simple. It comes from the same concept of string constraint. Work done by tension of the string is 0. Work done by normal reaction is also 0. Work done by normal reaction is also 0. Now look at the normal reaction. Normal reaction acting on this body, rod, will be like this. Yes or no? This wedge will be pushing this block. This block will be pushing this wedge like this. N and N. Do we understand this N and N? The upar wala N is the force applied by block, by wedge on the rod. The niche wala N is the force applied by rod on the wedge. Do we understand this? Do we understand this? And now I can find out some angles here. I'm very bad at finding angles. I think this angle will be 90 minus theta. Yes or no? What will be this angle? So I have this plane. I have this angle theta. I have one normal reaction like this, and I have one perpendicular. I have one normal reaction like this, and I have one horizontal. How do I find the angles? This is 90 degrees, right? How much is this angle? Can you get me that angle? Can you get me this angle? This is 90 degrees. So this is, how do you get it? Anyone? Theta. This angle is theta. Okay, if this angle is theta, then this angle will be 90 minus theta, right? How did you get it? It could be the other way also, na? How did you get it? How did you get it?
90 minus theta.
90 minus theta, na? Which one? This one is 90 minus theta. So you should not make a mistake. This one is 90 minus theta, correct? Okay, good. If you don't see, you will not have that much time in the exam. That is what I was asking you. You will not have that much time in the exam to think. Remember it. This is 90 minus theta. So this is theta. So this is 90 minus theta. So this is also theta. Okay. Remember these angles. Work done by normal reaction on this one. Normal reaction is going like this. Acceleration is going like this. So it is minus. Acceleration is downward. Normal reaction is this way. Minus n into A2 cos theta. Do we understand this? Minus n into A2 cos theta. Do we understand this? This is the work done by this normal on this rod. What is the work done by this normal? N, because this component is n sine theta. So n sine theta multiplied by A1. These two work done must be 0. So n A1 sine theta minus n A2 cos theta will be 0. This implies this relation that you get here. U by V is equal to tan theta. V is our A1 and U is our A2. Do we understand this? Why it is N1 sin theta, but it's not cos theta. Which one are you saying? Okay, I'll again draw it. I think you have got confused. I'll again draw it. Where is this? Where is this? Where is this? New share. Basic. See, look at this. Oops, I have to take it. Look at this. Look at this wedge. This is the wedge. Okay, this angle is theta. This is my rod. This is my rod. This is my rod. This is the normal reaction N1, N. And this is the other reaction N on this one. This N is like this. And I'm assuming that it is moving here with an acceleration A1. This angle is 90 minus theta. Work done by this normal reaction on this will be N into J component. Okay, you are not seeing it. Now you can see this. Work done by this normal reaction will be N into cos of 90 minus theta, which is sine theta. N sine theta into A1 will be the work done on this wedge. Now this block moves here with an acceleration A2, and this angle I found out is theta. Work done by this normal reaction on this A2 rod will be minus N cos theta into A2. Do we understand these two things? You add these two things and that should be equal to 0 because work done by normal reaction is 0. Do we understand this? Do we understand this better? Can I have some reason that we understand it? This is the way you can find out wedge constant very easily. Work done by normal reaction is 0. Work done by normal reaction on this block. If you don't want it to A2, take it at X2. Work done will be N into X2 It will be negative because n is going here, x2 is going down into cos of theta with a negative sign. So it becomes minus n theta cos theta into a2. Arey yaar, I multiplied expression by 4. Dada, you can multiply it by x2 and differentiate it twice. Doesn't make any difference. I'm just trying to save some time, yaar. n1 into x1, okay. Now, if I write x1, then I again differentiate it and I again differentiate it. That's why I was saving some time. Okay, now is it okay? Doesn't make any difference. I multiply n with a1 or n with v1 or n with x1. Doesn't make any difference in this case because derivatives are same. Got my point now? Let me just write it as x2. No, you're not sorry, beta. I was just trying to save some time. You know, I told you in the first case when I was doing that that string wala question that t into x1 becomes t into a1. So straight away I was writing a1. My fault probably. Not your fault, beta. I was just trying to save some time. Nothing else. I hope you understand this wedge constraint. I hope you got this wedge constraint, everyone. How I've done this.
Yes,
This is the simplest way of getting the wedge constraint. There is no way in this entire universe you can get it in a simpler way by any other method in the universe. You will not get it, and probably you will not find this method anywhere else in the book. I don't think you have. Have you ever read this anywhere in any book? Has anyone told you this method anywhere in the book? You will not find it because this is my way of doing it. I have devised it, so I know how to do it. Only I can do it in this way. Anyways, now you can do it in this way. Okay, so that was about the string constraint. Let me see what I have left in this chapter. The sheet is here. Newton's law for a system. You all know Newton's law for a system. M into x will be m1 into a1. I have told you that already. Where F external is the net external force of the system. If the net external force of the system is 0, the system does not accelerate. The center of mass of the system does not accelerate. If the center of mass is at rest, it remains at rest. Law of conservation of angular momentum. So, if you have questions like this, which are very difficult to do, they can be very easily done. They can be very easily done using all these concepts put together. I'm not sure if you would be able to understand it at this point in time. So probably I leave these questions for some other day, because as you can see, it will take a lot of time for you to actually solve it. It will take a lot of time for you to solve it. Probably we don't have that much time with us. All these questions can be done in a very nice way, if you understand the concept of a system and how blocks are moving and how blocks are attached to each other and how they are constrained to move together. First, you have to find the constraints. Then you have to make equation. Then you have to make equation in such a way that things do not trouble you in between. I'm so excited to teach you, but let's see if I have time tomorrow. Today's time is already over. If I have time tomorrow, maybe I'll solve this example number 26. Will take some time. I don't want to waste time, but let's see if I can do it in the quickest possible way. I'll do it. I'll do it in the exact way that they have done it, and probably I would be able to make you understand this question. So we'll do that in the next class, and we'll do friction. So we'll finish with Newton's laws of motion in the next one. If you have any doubts, you can please come up to me. If you have any doubts, you can please come up to me. I have not told you any theory, beta. So if I don't tell you the basic thing, I don't think you will be able to do any question. If I don't tell you how to solve constraint, will you be able to solve it? No. And I've taken no time in theory. I've just told you the basic things. We can't do, see, you have to understand one thing, beta, very, very carefully. In 40 days, it's very difficult. It's almost impossible to cover the entire course. No matter how many questions I do. It's not possible to do it. I'm trying my best, and I'm just doing the questions which I think are useful to you. It doesn't matter how many questions you do. See, there's a chapter called rotation. I can teach you rotation for 2 years. Continuously 2 years, I only teach you rotation. And I will never end up with my question. There are still questions that are left. And for 2 years, I'll teach you rotation. And every day for 1 hour. But still rotation will not finish. So it doesn't matter how many questions you are doing. It matters that if you understood a concept or not. And you can apply that concept on a particular question or not. That's the only thing. If we do this question, for example, 26, You probably do the entire chapter in one question. So I don't have to do 20 questions for that. Did you get me? This is how teachers learn with time that which questions to be done and which questions not to be done. Got my point, beta? I hope I have made myself clear. We'll do as much as possible in the time that we are given. Okay, so I'll try my best. I hope you also participate and enjoy the class. We'll do example number 26. I hope you have done this question before. We'll try to discuss it in short as possible and solve it. Chalo, I'll wind up today's class here. I hope you are enjoying the class. I hope you are having the same experiences in chemistry and maths. On that note, I'll just wind up today's class. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. Come on time so that you can start the class on time. Okay? Bye-bye.